Today we're going to talk about an operating system that was never meant to be a big deal. In fact, it was seen as a throwaway, but it ended up defining a whole generation of computing. And, yeah, it launched an empire. So let's get into it. Okay, if you used a computer back in the 80s or the early 90s, this image is probably seared into your brain. That stark, blinking cursor, just waiting. For millions of us, this was it. This was the gateway to everything.
And that's the real question, right? This wasn't just some quirky loading screen. No. This was the computer. It was how you interacted with the entire machine. So how on earth did this super cryptic command line become the face of the PC revolution?
Well, first off, DOS stands for Disk Operating System. The easiest way to think about it is like a translator. It was the essential piece of software that sat between you and the actual hardware, the guts of the machine, turning all your typed commands into actions the computer could actually understand and execute.
Now, you'd think a product that completely took over the world would be the result of some grand master plan. But the story of how DOS came to dominate is, well, it's a wild tale of failed deals, some incredible timing, and a very, very shrewd purchase.
So check this out. The whole thing happens in a flash. It's 1980. The computing giant IBM is about to release its game-changing personal computer, but they need an OS. Their first choice is a system called CP/M, which was the standard at the time, but that deal completely falls apart. So IBM turns to a small, kind of unknown company called Microsoft. The only problem? Microsoft doesn't have an operating system, so what do? They go shopping. And this number right here, this is the number that changed tech history forever. For just $50,000, Microsoft bought an operating system from a little company called Seattle Computer Products. And get this, its original name was QDOS, which stood for Quick and Dirty Operating System. Seriously. And that quick and dirty purchase would become MS-DOS. So this is how the competition got absolutely steamrolled. Digital Research, the guys who made the original CP/M, were not happy. They even threatened to sue. So IBM did something really clever. They told customers, hey, you have a choice. You can get PC-DOS or you can get the official CP/M. The only catch? They priced CP/M at $200 more. For anyone buying an already expensive computer, it was a total no-brainer. And just like that, DOS became the undisputed king.
But here is the most incredible part. Microsoft's own team didn't even think DOS was a big deal. They saw it as a temporary, throwaway product. Its only purpose was to get IBM in the door so they'd buy Microsoft's real products, their programming languages. They had absolutely no idea this little side project was about to become the foundation of their entire empire.
So we know how it conquered the world, but what was it actually like to sit in front of that blinking cursor and try to get some work done? Well, let's just say it was a very different world than the one we're used to today.
Just look at this comparison. Today, you want to copy a file, you just drag a little picture of it from one place to another. Back then, you had to memorize and perfectly type out these cryptic commands. If you put one space or one slash in the wrong place, sorry, bad command or file name. Try again. And you had to live by some very strict rules. Your file names could only be 8 characters long. Good luck trying to name your file something descriptive. A mouse? What's a mouse? Your keyboard was your only weapon. And maybe the most frustrating part, every single program needed its own special driver for your printer or your sound card. It was a constant headache.
But the biggest challenge of all, the one that defined an entire era of software development, was this, the infamous 640 kilobyte barrier. Because of how the original IBM PC was built, programs could only use 640K of memory. To put that in perspective, a single photo on your phone today is like 10 times that size. Programmers had to be absolute wizards, performing miracles to fit amazing games and applications into that tiny little space. Obviously, the era of the command line couldn't last forever. A new way of doing things was on the horizon, one with pictures and icons, and it actually started its life running right on top of good old DOS.
The transition from DOS to Windows was a slow burn. At first, Windows was just a fancy program you launched from DOS. Then, Windows 95 came along and became the main event, but DOS was still hiding underneath, making sure all your old programs would still work. And then, eventually, it was just completely absorbed, becoming a quiet, invisible component in the background.
So for most people, the command line just faded away. It was out of sight and out of mind. But the thing is, it never really disappeared. The fundamental DNA of that operating system was about to find new life in some very unexpected places.
So what is the legacy of DOS? Where does this accidental throwaway product still live on today? The answers are actually pretty cool.
The ghost of DOS is kind of everywhere if you know where to look. It's still humming away in some specialized embedded systems. It is the absolute heart of the entire retro gaming scene, thanks to emulators like DOSBox. There's even an open source project called FreeDOS keeping it alive. And yep, every single time you open the command prompt in Windows, you're looking at the direct descendant of that original C prompt.
And all of this leaves us with a really fascinating question. The story of DOS is a powerful reminder that sometimes the biggest revolutions don't start as grand visions. They start as accidents, as side projects, as quick and dirty solutions. It really makes you wonder, what piece of software that was dismissed as a temporary fix today might just be running the world tomorrow?